We start with a report that you'll see only on 2 tonight, and we have our viewers to thank for this story. Good evening, I'm Mary Alice Demler. Now, we recently asked you at home whether you've ever gotten an expensive bill for ambulance service. The responses poured in by the hundreds. Mike Stebick wrote in about his $1,300 bill to be transported from Orchard Park to South Buffalo Mercy. Diane McDonald told us about a 5-minute ambulance ride for her husband, which cost $1,600. Less than $400 of that was covered by their insurance. And Madison Dryberg says she shared an ambulance with a friend. Both got a bill for $850. So, why does this vital service result in so many big bills for patients? Our Steve Brown uncovers the reasons why ambulance rides can be so expensive in this Two on Your Side original investigation.
The worst experience of our lives. Worst experience ever.
Nelson and Carol Melendez needed help. May 2nd, 2 a.m., Nelson was having a seizure.
I thought he was dying. I didn't know what to do. So my first thing was call the ambulance.
The ambulance came quickly and took him to the hospital. The problem for him, a leaking blood vessel near his brain. The good news, medication has stabilized Nelson and surgery is scheduled.
Thank God I have insurance. I mean, for me, I thought a ride to the hospital, I don't know, the most $400, $500 something.
But then the ambulance bill came, the amount, an eye-popping $1,700.
It was like a shock to see the bill, how much it was, just for a 5-minute drive.
Carol Melendez isn't kidding. It was a very short ambulance ride from the Melendez family home on Pratt Street in Buffalo to Buffalo General Hospital on High Street on the city's medical campus. 1.6 miles. And there are a lot of ways to go from here to there cheaper than $1,700.
Now, if Lyft had been available in Buffalo that night, the same 1.6-mile ride would have cost less than $5. A taxi cab, that would have cost a bit more at $9.40. But say the Melendezes hired a stretch Hummer limo, $549, still way cheaper than the $1,700 ambulance ride. So the Melendezes want to know what you at home are also probably wondering.
If it's something that you need, I don't know why it's so expensive when it's a life-threatening situation.
And it's the cost of keeping an ambulance available and being able to respond emergently in a matter of minutes with highly trained staff and specialized equipment.
And Twin City Ambulance CEO Brian Bronner says the annual cost of running an ambulance service is substantial.
Ambulances are incredibly expensive to insure. Generally, our liability policy for our company is over $1 million for vehicle liability. That's just vehicle liability.
Workers' comp insurance, another $1 million. Overhead also includes Twin Cities dispatch. Like the ambulances, a 24/7 operation. Boiled down per ambulance, it's roughly $800,000 to keep these rolling emergency rooms on the road.
I understand it's expensive. I've been on an ambulance myself. I've gotten those bills myself. However, I needed that ambulance.
Allison Fang is a paramedic and has been with Twin City for 15 years, and she's heard the criticisms about how expensive an ambulance can be.
You're not just paying for a taxi ride, you're paying for an experienced and educated clinician in the back of an ambulance to sometimes make life-saving decisions.
We're not without compassion. You can't do what we do and not be concerned about people.
But Bronner says break-even on a single emergency call is $568. Every call, EMTs need to provide $568 worth of medical treatment and/or transportation, or they lose money on that call. But 30% of their responses, patients refuse transport to the hospital. And typically, Twin Cities gets nothing, zero, from those calls. And 23%, those are for people covered by Medicaid or Medicare. Payment for those kinds of calls are capped. $160 for Medicaid, $350 for Medicare. So Twin Cities loses money on both, meaning the remaining 47% of calls, these have to make up for losses on all of the other calls.
Is that why ambulance rides cost what they cost?
It's a substantial part of the reason why ambulance rides cost what they cost.
We explained to the Melendezes what Twin City Ambulance told us about the cost of an ambulance ride. Now, the Melendezes have good medical insurance. They'll only have to pay $100 out of pocket for that $1,700 ambulance ride, but still, they have a question.
In an emergency, do I call the ambulance again, or do I just go and take the ride to the hospital. But you don't think about that stuff.
Now, whether it's ambulances or any other medical service, out-of-pocket costs often depends on what kind of insurance you have. And Bronner says as high deductible plans became more common, Twin City Ambulance started hearing more complaints about the cost of its ambulance rides. Mary Alice?
I can only imagine. And those ambulance rides, Steve, aren't they like the first bills toward the deductible?
Often they are exactly that. For example, if someone feels chest pain and calls an ambulance, that's the first expense for that medical emergency. That's the first towards the deductible, which helps explain why so many people are being asked to pay an ambulance bill and not a later bill, like a medical diagnostic, after the deductible is finally reached.
Yeah, it's a complicated matrix, like you said, between the reimbursement rates and, the costs involved, but a great investigation. Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.